You know that feeling when a story is so good, you just have to share it? Well, in 1929, a man named Alan Blasser did something troubling. He allegedly stole a story. Word for word. Pause, and then he vanished. Nobody knows what happened to him. Not even today. This is a mystery that has lingered for nearly a century, a tale of literary theft, a sudden disappearance, and a cold trail that leads absolutely nowhere. But to understand the full weight of this strange case, we have to start at the beginning, the sweltering summer of 1929 in New York City. Let's go back to New York City, in the summer of 1929. It was brutally hot. A heat wave had gripped the whole city. Day after day, temperatures climbed past 100 degrees Fahrenheit, and the humidity made the air thick and hard to breathe. People were sweating through their clothes. The grass in Central Park turned black from the sun, dry and brittle, crunching underfoot like autumn leaves in July. Paint on buildings bubbled and peeled, turning the facades of brownstones and tenements into blistered, faded ghosts of themselves. Relief agencies gave out ice, handing out blocks of it to the poor so they could cool their rooms or press it against their foreheads and wrists. Churches prayed for rain, holding special services where congregations begged for mercy from the unrelenting sun. The heat was like a heavy blanket that wouldn't lift, pressing down on the city from dawn until well after midnight. Street vendors sold lemonade and iced tea for a nickel, but even that did little to cut the haze. People slept on fire escapes and rooftops, hoping for any whisper of a breeze. The newsreels showed images of horses collapsing in the streets, of children fainting on playgrounds. It was a city on the verge of melting. In that heat, a strange story appeared in a magazine called Munsey's. Munsey's was a pulp magazine, one of the most popular of its time, known for publishing adventure, romance, and science fiction. It was a thick, cheaply printed periodical that sold for a dime, and it crammed its pages with stories that offered escape from the grind of daily life. The issue that hit newsstands in August 1929 carried a tale titled The Heat Wave, a strange story of ancient Rome and modern New York. The authors were Marion Ryan and a writer using the name Robert Ord. But Robert Ord was actually a woman named Edith Ostlera. She also wrote plays. She had a background in theater and had already seen some of her works performed on the London stage. The two of them imagined a wild tale about a man named Paul Furin. Pause. Let me tell you a little about that story because its plot is essential to understanding why it was so memorable and why it caught the eye of a plagiarist. Paul Furin is a young man in New York. He just lost his job because he stood up for a girl named Lou Harding. His boss, Mr. Barron, was a difficult man, the kind of employer who enjoyed humiliating his workers. Furin walks home in the heat, exhausted. The sun beats down on him, and the streets shimmer with heat mirages. He finds a bench in a small park near his tenement, sits down, and falls asleep. He is so worn out that his dreams become vivid, almost real. When he wakes up, he is in ancient Rome. Long_pause, in Rome, he is called Feronius. The sun is just as hot there, perhaps even hotter, because the Italian sun in August is merciless. Everyone is at the Colosseum, watching gladiator fights. The crowd roars as men engage in combat, the sand becoming stained. Feronius has a plan. He bribed the director of the games, Marcellus, to free his lover, Vettia, from prison. He pays Marcellus a small fortune in gold coins. But Marcellus betrays him. He takes the money and then sends Vettia into the arena anyway. 3 lions attack her. Feronius watches from the stands, helpless, as the woman he loves is in grave danger. He is furious. He storms down to the arena floor, and in a rage,
he confronts Marcellus, who meets a tragic end.
Then Furin wakes up again on the bench. Rain is falling. The heat wave has finally broken. He goes home to his wife, Beth. She opens the door. Her face is white. She screams. An hour ago, you were seen coming out of Mr. Barron's office. He was found unresponsive.
The circumstances are unclear.
Pause, the story ends there. A perfect, chilling twist. The boundary between dream and reality dissolves, leaving the reader to wonder, did Furin actually travel through time, or was the ancient Rome vision a metaphor for his inner turmoil? It was a bold, inventive piece of fiction that captured the anxieties of the era. Now, fast forward 4 years. It's 1933. The Great Depression has taken hold of America. Breadlines are common. People are out of work.
And yet, the world of pulp magazines is still thriving, because for a dime you could buy an hour of escape. A science fiction magazine called Amazing Stories, founded by the legendary Hugo Gernsback, publishes a story called Across the Ages.
The author is listed as Alan Blasser.
He was an editor of fanzines, a fan of sci-fi, a young man who had been active in the early fan communities that surrounded the pulps. He had written letters to magazines, contributed amateur stories, and was known in the small but passionate world of science fiction enthusiasts. But the story was not his. It was allegedly the exact same story, word for word, as The Heat Wave. Long_pause, the only difference was the title and the character names. Paul Furin became a man named John, and ancient Rome was now ancient Greece. But the dialogue, the descriptions, the twist ending, every single line was identical. It was a blatant, undeniable act of plagiarism. Someone noticed. In the tight-knit community of science fiction readers and writers, word spread fast. A fan named Forrest J. Ackerman, who would later become a famous editor and archivist, stumbled across the original The Heat Wave in an old copy of Munsey's and compared it to Glasser's story. He saw the match. He wrote letters to the editors of Amazing Stories and to fellow fans. The accusation was made public. The editor of Amazing Stories at the time, T. O'Connor Sloan, was an elderly man who had taken over from Gernsback. He investigated the claim. He obtained a copy of the 1929 Munsey's and did his own comparison. There was no doubt. The story had been stolen. Amazing Stories printed a correction in a later issue, apologizing to the original authors and disavowing Glasser. And the moment he was exposed, Alan Blasser disappeared. He vanished from the public eye. No one ever heard from him again. We don't know what happened. Did he run away? Did he change his name? Did something terrible happen to him? There are no records. No police reports. No family members speaking out. He just stopped existing. Pause, some have speculated that he may have died shortly after the scandal, perhaps from illness, perhaps by his own hand. Others think he simply moved to a different city and took on a new identity, too ashamed to face the community he had betrayed. There is even a theory that he joined the military under a false name and was killed overseas during World War II. But no evidence supports any of these theories. The trail is ice cold. The original authors, Marian Ryan and Edith Ostlera, as Robert Ord, they continued their work. Marian Ryan went on to write other stories for pulps, though none achieved the fame of The Heat Wave. Edith Ostlera eventually stopped writing fiction and focused on her plays, some of which were produced in small theaters. But the plagiarism left a stain. It cast a shadow over their rightful recognition. And the mystery of Glasser's fate remains unsolved to this day.
So, here's the truth. Even though the crime here was not violent, it was still a crime. Stealing someone else's work is wrong. It hurts people. It denies them credit, income, and the satisfaction of seeing their creation appreciated. And in this case, the person who did it faced a strange kind of punishment. He lost his reputation, his career, and then he disappeared. We don't know if justice was served. But we know that the truth came out. The story was returned to its rightful authors in a way their names are remembered, while Glasser's is known only as a footnote of infamy. If you know anything about Alan Blasser, maybe you hold a clue. These old mysteries sometimes resurface. Family records, forgotten letters, obituaries in small-town newspapers, somewhere the answer might be hiding. We keep hoping that one day, we'll learn the truth. Until then, we remember the victims, the writers who created a brilliant story, and the readers who were cheated. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this story, please hit the like button. Leave a comment about what you think happened to Alan Blasser. And subscribe for more true crime mysteries. See you next time.